We first paired up in 2007 to co-host The One Show on BBC. And now, after all those years, he's back on the Loose panel. Please welcome Adrian Chiles, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Those were the days, weren't they, Adrian?
They were the days 13 years ago. I think we aged to about 10 years in those first 2 years. But, you know, we got through it, didn't we?
We got through it. Well, you're very used to being the one asking the question, so I know this is unusual for you to be sitting here surrounded by
getting our own back now.
Yeah.
We are, exactly. I'm in charge.
Oh, you were always in charge.
I was, yeah. But anyway, yes, your book, The Good Drinker, Adrian, and this was born out of a documentary you made called Drinkers Like Me, and indeed the response you got from people on the street afterwards, because I'd say the vast majority of us love to have a glass of something here and there. It's at what point you realise that you need it as opposed to just wanting it.
Yeah, and I think the issue is there's good and bad news in the book. I suppose the bad news is that for a lot of people, it will apply to them what applied to me, which was, you know, I was drinking lots and lots and lots, but without ill effects. Noticeable.
How many units a week?
I was drinking, I found out through making the documentary, up to 100 units a week.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot. But without ever getting drunk, without ever getting into trouble or anything. And the point was that because we've got this idea in our heads of an alcoholic, of a problem drinker, i.e. waking up in a shop doorway, sleeping on a park bench, you know, drinking Pernod in the morning, staggering around, bumping your head, being in hospital, because we've got that image of it. If you're not that, you think, well, I haven't got a problem. I'm not a problem drinker. But then it occurred to me, look, if I'm drinking every day and I'm drinking that much, then there must be some dependency on alcohol there. But then I suppose the good news in the book is that you can cut down. I think a lot of people at some level think the only way of addressing it is to stop completely. And for some people, that is definitely appropriate and necessary. For others, they're probably frightened of addressing the problem because they think, well, I don't want to be told I've got to stop completely because it's part of my life, rightly or wrongly. Well, you know, I kind of found a way of doing it, of just drinking less and actually enjoying it all the more.
What shocked you into it, though, to make a change?
Well, just quite how much I was drinking. And also, I had, as part of the TV programme I had a liver scan where the fella said, yeah, look, you've got a bit of fatty tissue here. It's starting to... It's going to affect your health here. You know, you could head towards cirrhosis. Something's got to change. So, obviously, that focused my mind. And so I just set about sort of cutting down. But
was it hard to cut down?
No, because I did a mental job on myself in the sense that I thought if I lined up all the drinks I'd drunk since I was 15 years old, that line would be about 3 miles long, right, of the drinks. Well, that's a lot to put through your system. But the real tragedy for me is that when I think how many of those drinks did I really want or need or enjoy? How many of all those? That 3 miles of drinks. I mean, and it's much less than half. A lot of the time I'm drinking for the sake of drinking, out of habit, because I go out with somebody and they're having drinks, so I'm having a drink, or you've got a bottle of wine to finish, or it's 9 o'clock, the pub doesn't shut till you're 11, you know, or just... So all I did really is cut out the unnecessary drinks and just focus on the ones I did really enjoy or need. Or...
Why do you think you became dependent on it? You know, you're getting into a cycle, you were saying.
Well, it's an addictive... It is an addictive drug.
But was there a reason behind it you were masking?
Well, I think in your head, you know, I think the more you drink, it stands to reason, the more likely you are to get addicted to it. I mean, it is, for me and many others, it's just part of life when you're 15. Like my dad said, oh, you're too, you know, you're too young to stay at home all the time, but you're too old to stay at home all the time now, but you're too young to go to the pub. So the pub is like the be-all and end-all. So it becomes only about getting served in pubs. This is what I'm going to do. And then suddenly it's on this, like, pedestal in your life. You know, have a drink, everything will be...
I like the story when you had your first drink, when you were very young.
Yeah, and I just felt something sort of... I don't know, it was just sort of...
What was the lager you drank when you were 15 or something?
Experience. It was cider I drank when I was... It was cider I drank as a party, but I had a very bad time on a school exchange when I was 14 because my nan had just died, my Croatian nan, but I had to go off on this flipping school exchange to Germany. And I've never been so homesick. It was awful, it really was. But halfway through the second week, they took us on a trip to this brewery. And at the end of it, for some reason, they gave us some lager. And I just remember drinking this lager, and suddenly everything seemed fine. I mean, it was profound. Suddenly, oh, I'm just having a good time, it hasn't been too bad, I'll be home on Sunday, just... You know, I even got to like my pen friend again. I saw one of the German girls looking at me. All right, I mean, she might have had, you know, and all that. Suddenly, I saw the whole world through a different kind of prism. And I think, looking back, and it's one of the revelations that I found about myself, because it's turned into a kind of a drinking memoir, if you like. That, you know, these little triggers that happen, but before you know it, you know, it's in, it's in charge of you rather than you're in charge of it.
Now, as well, Adrian, alongside that, in recent times, you were diagnosed with ADD, which is attention deficit disorder. How much of that makes sense to you now, on reflection? And just talking about drinking and everything, was that all part of it?
I think that's all part of it. And I mean, I haven't really talked about that in my book because it was almost too much to get my head around.
It's another book.
but it was certainly, you know, you self-medicate, because if you've got ADD, you're trying to do 20 things at once, you get distracted, and it just, more than anything else, it just becomes exhausting. It's just exhausting. And so, you know, a drink would calm you down. But you know, when I first got diagnosed, I look back at my life and think, I mean, how could I have ever thought I didn't have ADD? Well, I didn't know what it was, and neither did my parents, but at school, could never concentrate. And I mean, I went doing the lunch. I mean, joking apart, how many times did I just get distracted?
Well, Adrian, isn't it funny? I'm going to do exactly what I used to do in the lunch and tell you to shush because we have to move on. And I'm going to bring you back and we'll talk again. Thank you so much. The Good Drinker out tomorrow. Thanks for your company today.